Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with another interesting topic on Vedic astrology today. And today we'll be talking about some relationship issues. And I've made several videos earlier on relationships, and the seventh house has been given the honor of ruling over pretty much relationships. So I've made videos on how to determine whether a relationship is good between spouses, whether you'll have a good relationship, whether you'll have an early marriage or a relationship, how it's going to survive, whether it's going to be happy and fruitful. And then so many tools are used as per Vedic astrology to determine that, based on what planets rule the seventh house, what planets are aspecting the seventh house. And if you take into consideration from the point of view of how sage Gemini has explained, you have to look at the Dharakaraka, and that's another way of looking at it. And as per traditional astrology, the Navamsha chart or the D9 chart is a chart which is very specific to relationships. So understanding the Navamsha chart is very important, or the D9 chart is very important. That's one. And then to analyze it based on how the placement of the seventh lord is in the Navamsha chart, and and just understanding and analyzing the Navamsha chart itself, the Lagna of the Navamsha chart, and the planets in the Navamsha chart, the role of Venus, which is a Karaka of marriage and relationships, the role of Jupiter, which is the Karaka of marriage and relationships in a woman's chart, and how they behave in the Navamsha chart. So there are several ways and techniques to determine whether the relationship between couples will be fruitful, will be good, will be lasting, or whether they can just end up abruptly. So these are some of the various tools. And also I've made another video on Kundali Guna Milan, and I'll recommend you to go and watch that. That's very important because that's based on the 36 point system, and the 36 points are further grouped into various other classifications where you can determine whether there'll be physical compatibility, whether there'll be love, whether there'll be progeny, where there'll be career happiness or happiness through career, where there'll be wealth. So there are several techniques which have been given to us by the ancient sages, and that's based on the pretty much the Kundali Guna Milan system is based on the nakshatra system. And I know a lot of astrologers don't believe in that, and they say, well, all this traditional astrology does not make sense, and they've come up with their new unique tools. Some of the recent Vedic astrology scholars have come up with new tools to determine, but I specifically, based on my experiences, have relied mostly on traditional systems or methods of astrological analysis, and in my case it has worked out to be perfect. So I don't know about the recent scholars who have come up with other methods of doing the Kundali Milan or horoscope matching between couples and spouses, and but it has worked for me. And also looking at the seventh house, and I just explained to you as to looking at the Karakas of marriage and relationships, and looking at the D9 chart, which is the Navamsha chart, and looking at other techniques which have been given to us by the ancient sages. All that has worked for me perfect. So I'll keep recommending my traditional way of astrology. But today, in specific, I have come across a very interesting combination that is coming again from the ancient sages, and it has come through one shloka. It's a long shloka. I cannot recite it to you in Sanskrit. I could, but it doesn't serve any purpose here. But it is coming directly from the ancient sages. It is coming directly from the ancient scriptures about how you can avoid fatal relationships And well, in olden days and ages, of course, there was a concept called Gandharva Vivah, which meant union of a man and woman before marriage, and it has gone as far back as the days of the Mahabharata, where even sages like Sage Parashara and Satyavati had a union, and that's coming from the Puranas again. I don't want to get into that story, but yes, there was something called a Gandharva Vivah, which was union between a man and a woman before marriage. So there was a premarital kind of thing in extreme cases, which was allowed, I could say, or maybe prevalent, or in extreme cases, but not like today's day and age, where there are live-ins and there are couples which are living without marriage. And marriage is very important because you take vows in front of the holy fire and through mantras and invoking the gods, so that's very important. But even then, first, when you take vows as per the Vedic rites and solemnize a marriage, it becomes more prominent, and the planets start to behave based on the Kundali Milan and the 7th house and the Karaka of marriage and the D9 and the Navamsha chart and so on and so forth. But even if you have not taken those vows in front of the holy fire, even if you're not married as per Vedic rites, if you're living together as man and woman and you're in a relationship, then of course these planets also come into play. So I'm assuming that in both the cases, the 7th house, the Karaka, the D9 chart, the Darakaraka based on Gemini, all these come into play as if you're in a relationship, and more strongly if you're living together. So I came across a very interesting combination through the ancient scriptures, which gives us certain combinations between a man and a woman which can be fatal. And like I said, it'll apply both to married couples as well as people who are in relationships. And I wanted to bring this up to you so that, if you see such kind of a relationship in a man or a woman, or such kind of a combination rather, in a man and a woman who are in a relationship or are going to marry, or who are already married, this is a red flag right there. So if it can be avoided at the right time, I will recommend please avoid that. So this combination is that in case Mars and Saturn occupy the 7th place from the Sun, it will bring illness to the husband. Okay, so the condition is that Mars and Saturn both have to. So it's not either Mars or Saturn. Both Mars and Saturn have to occupy the 7th place from the Sun. And in this case, it will bring illness to the husband. Okay, so this has to be looked in the woman's chart. Okay, why? Because Sun is a Karaka, is a male planet. So it will represent or signify the husband. So look at a woman's chart, and in case you see that Mars and Sun both are placed the 7th house from where the Sun is placed, or the 7th place from where Sun is, it will bring illness to the husband. Okay, so it's a red flag right there. And again, it's going to apply to people who are in relationships as well. So in case your boyfriend or your live-in boyfriend is there, and as a woman, your Sun has Mars and Saturn in the 7th house from the placement of your Sun in the birth chart, if you're a woman, then it's a red flag right there. It can bring illness, and it will bring illness. I shouldn't be saying can, because these ancient sages are never wrong. It will bring illness to the husband. So such relationships or marriages should be avoided. The other combination is in case these two planets, Mars and Saturn, so they're not talking about other malefic, very specific. In case Mars and Saturn both are placed in 7th place from the moon in a man's chart, then his wife will be afflicted with a disease, or it'll bring illness to the wife. Why in a man's chart? Because moon represents the female energy. So in a man's chart, if you see that from where the moon is placed in his natal chart, 7 places from that, or right opposite to it, if you see both the planets, Mars and Saturn, then it will bring disease to either his wife or his live-in girlfriend, or so such relationships or such marriages, if it can be avoided at the right time, should be avoided. Okay, so like I said, Kundali Guna Milan is a very important tool, but at the same time other combinations also have to be looked, which may not appear in the Kundali Milan or the Kundali matching system based on the Kuta Milan system, as I've discussed in my previous videos, which is based on the 36-point system. So this is a very important combination. In a man's chart, Mars and Saturn should not be 7th place from where the moon is placed. And in a woman's chart, Mars and Saturn both should not be placed in the 7th place from where the sun is placed in both in the woman's chart. Okay, and if you see such kind of a combination, it'll bring disease to the spouse or the other half, or his boyfriend or girlfriend. Okay, so that's one combination. Now the sages have also extended this shloka into another combination, that in case Mars and Saturn are in the 2nd and the 12th place of the sun in a woman's chart, then it can bring death to the spouse, the boyfriend, live-in boyfriend, or if such relationships or marriages are going to happen, they should be avoided. Once again, in case Mars and Saturn are 2nd and 12th from where sun is placed in a woman's chart, because sun will signify the male partner, then this combination can bring death to the boyfriend or the live-in boyfriend or the husband. So such relationships should be avoided. So when Mars and Saturn should be in 12th or 2nd places from the sun, it'll form another yoga, as we have discussed in our earlier video, which is a Pap Kartari yoga, because malefics on both sides of the sun. But then the sages have very clearly mentioned not all malefics. They've not mentioned other malefics like Rahu and Ketu. They've mentioned very clearly Mars and Saturn. They should be either in the 12th or the 2nd house. So either Mars can be in the 12th and Saturn can be in the 2nd from sun, or Mars can be in the 2nd and Saturn can be in the 12th from sun, and it will form a Pap Kartari yoga in a woman's chart. So that means death to the partner, male partner. Similarly, in case Mars and Saturn are 12th and the 12th place of the moon in a man's chart, because moon signifies the female energy, then it can bring death to his live-in girlfriend, or it can bring death to in as far as the girlfriend is concerned, or if it's a wife. They're very clear about that. So it's not illness. They said if they are placed 7th from sun and moon. Here they're talking about death. So if there's a Pap Kartari yoga of Mars and Saturn 2nd and 12th, and it can be both, Mars can be in 2nd or Mars can be in 12th, Saturn can be in 2nd or Saturn can be in 12th. But if both the planets form a Pap Kartari yoga on sun in a woman's chart, if they're afflicting it by sitting on both sides of the sun, then death to the male partner. Similarly, if both planets, Mars and Saturn, are sitting on either side of the sun, but both have to form a Pap Kartari yoga, or a yoga which is having both these planets, Mars and Saturn, 2nd and 12th, sitting from the moon in a male's chart, then death to the wife or the girlfriend. That's what the sages are predicting. I'm not predicting it. That's coming directly from the ancient sages or the scriptures. Now, as an extension to this shloka, they've also mentioned that in case one of the planets, Mars and Saturn, are in conjunction with Sun in a female's chart, again, that can bring death. And also in case Mars or Saturn, so here they're talking either Mars or Saturn. So first they said either Mars or Saturn are in conjunction with Sun in a female's chart, then it will bring death to the woman's partner, whether it's a relationship or a marriage. And they're saying that in case either Mars or Saturn are in conjunction with Moon in a man's chart, that can also bring death to his female partner, be it a live-in partner or married partner. So such combinations should be completely avoided, because there's a red flag right here. And like I said, do the Kundali Milan based on the Kuta system, and then look at some other combinations also. And this is not just the only combination. There are so many hundreds of other combinations which have to be taken into consideration. And unfortunately, in today's day and age, people very quickly come to a conclusion as to whether the charts are matched or not. It should be verified and analyzed by a qualified Vedic astrologer. Only then you should go ahead with the relationship or marriage. So I thought this was very important, and I'll be coming up with more relationship videos in my forthcoming sessions. And in the meanwhile, I recommend subscribe to my channel. Hopefully you like this video. Subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I'll see you with an interesting topic on Vedic astrology very soon. Goodbye.